How much more do I want to do there? I don't think I want to do too much more in the horse unless I add some color. Maybe a little bit of blending there, a little bit of the Payne's gray in the nose. Animals are so beautiful, and it's nice to see them coming around the corner. A lot of them have bells in the wintertime. Well, we've got a longer sheet of paper than our study. The idea is to express a little more of a height to the cathedral. We're still going to start relatively low in our painting, setting this slanted shadow first, and then placing, just as we did in our study, the idea of horse and carriage all as one unit. Within a smaller box. So our center of interest is here. Different distance from each side of the paper makes it a good center of interest. Our eye level about here. So for example, our figures will line up somewhat in that position. The building rising to the left. The curve coming in. And then behind, we have some lines which will help us to create the feeling of perspective in the cathedral. Lines going, let's place this guy first. Towards the back, steeper as they go higher. Line of sight. And we have some verticals. I guess these are actually buttresses. Help us to line up the windows as well. All these lines, very pale right now, but to give myself an idea of where things will go. Lining up some of the smaller windows. Everything as it moves this way diminishes a little bit. And these buttresses have a sort of thickness. Just loosely describing it now. Well, let's get into the main area of our horses, starting with that neck area. They're coming towards us, so we want to show them sort of head on. Their heads are in different positions. This one's kind of leaning to the right. So they're making a bit of a turn. And I'm going to state the lines lightly and follow that by coming back with a little stronger position. A little darker mark so that you can see it better. Kind of finish the horse with a squarish nose, boxy nose. Legs about here. And then on top of that is the carriage. And on top of the carriage is our figure, kind of moving him to the, or her to the center. So maybe comes a little more to this. No. Let's put the head just slightly to the left here. Head just slightly higher and slightly more raised. And we finish off the back of this horse. Just a kind of feeling of the rump here. Then we put that wheel coming in, just touching the edge of the shadow. And we see that second wheel. It's going to be kind of eaten up by the legs. Eyes high and on the side of the head very much. Shoosh. A little long. And then ears coming out. You notice the ears go above everything. I'm putting it so that they're very visible, because I realize that this is one important part of the horse to see. The horse is largely going to be in shadow, right? So we need to rely on a few features to kind of catch our viewer's eye, and we can kind of, well, not fudge the rest, but we can be a little less accurate, put it that way. All these are rounded shapes, the shoulder. And their legs are kind of lining up on this line, their forward leg. This one is going behind, this one is going behind. More legs down here that we're not going to fuss about just yet. Actually, we never really fuss about them because they're too complicated. So we set this and indicate our figures very loosely. Head lining up on our line of sight. We have a smaller child here. We're kind of watching because the animals are so beautiful, and it's nice to see them coming around the corner. A lot of them have bells in the wintertime. Okay, this is good. And if we decide to put some figures in the distance, very small, but we're going to line up the heads on the same plane. right, let's start with some yellow ochre. Some burnt sienna. Some ultramarine blue. Mixing them on the paper, of course, with a good amount of water. Burnt sienna. Ultramarine blue. Keep doing that. Really cutting around any object. A little bit of burnt sienna. Almost just a simple gray through here. And let's put some more of that yellow ochre. Burnt sienna. Mixing on the paper. Ultramarine blue. And let's take a smaller brush and put in some, well, some more of this burnt sienna. Horses a little bit. And some ultramarine blue, a little darker. No, not yet, not darker yet. More of that ultramarine blue. Just setting a little bit of a note here. Let's actually bleed that down, shall we? Bring it right into this. Just start to get it going. Yeah, something like that. few colors. Just set a few of the notes, play with it a little bit. Okay. Interesting to see this angle because you can see how the brush works. Here we'll go with a little darker hue, not a lot darker. Mixing all three. Cooler, a little warmer, I think. Anyway, we go with something like this. But a very stumpy, harsh brush for this. come back to that later. Let's work in the horse right now. So I'm going to use a little bit, got some Payne's Gray, ultramarine blue. Yes, I want to go darker here. Well, let's continue this sort of blending within the image. Just a second. So we will go darker in front, and in the carriage we'll leave the rump of the horse kind of bright. Simple approach, right? Very simple approach. So I'm going to kind of paint those ear coverings. I don't find them that attractive. The blue, the brown. We're not matching color here, are we? We're just playing with color. It's a little funner that way. And we'll build the body out of this also. Looking for that little circle of a joint. Mixing brown, blue. I'm saving some of the rich darks for a little later, of course. Excuse me. More blue. Or even just gray. Those ears. So important. Right, and just kind of joined. So a few more bright colors. They're horses, but we can be festive. And we'll just bring this right down via a stroke. Well, and a They are so coordinated. Here's where it gets rather unnecessarily complicated. There's a way around this, which I'm going to just paint shapes. I'm not going to worry if the legs are overly complicated or not. There we go. Have some nice ornamentation here. Let's make the most of that. We'll use this primarily to kind of create the rump. The rump of the horse, of course. But the horse is not Mr. Ed. That's a pretty good wheel. That's good enough. Pretty much like that. And we don't really have to do much there. We will, while it's wet, let's add a little color. Color, not water. Just to get that darkness through there. Very important because that's going to be setting up the light. Let's create our figure with some of this same gray. Nice little top hat for you. Perhaps a little bigger. A little bigger. That's about the right size. Okay. All right. Well, that's pretty good. Let's add a few more darks. Let's go at it with a smaller brush, though. While it's still a little wet. I don't want it to be too pretty. You hear me say that a lot, don't you? Okay. The basic shape is good. What remains are adding features, bridles, all that stuff. One more little thing here. Spend time in this area while we can to get, well, the definition for one, feeling of the turning cart, dark against light. Feeling of the horses coming forward. That's important too. Turning of the wheel in a calligraphic manner. All these things. Using Payne's gray, but I'm always adding another color to it, so that's why it's hard to really give you a complete idea of the color. And in truth, the color is not the most important part. The most important part, I feel, is the light and dark quality. Tonal values, that's our big subject for the day, tonal values. And then we'll get the nice dark hat there, not completely black, of course. We're going to save that black in case we need it later. Smallest brush here, and a little burnt sienna. I always put yellow ochre in the face. Okay, we're getting the horses pretty well. How much more do I want to do there? I don't think I want to do too much more in the horse unless I add some color. Maybe a little bit of blending there, a little bit of the Payne's gray in the nose. Well, it's a little wet. And this fellow's nose. I don't know if it's a fella or not. They do have that beautiful coloring though. And it's very practical for the painting to see that. Okay, let's do the foreground and get it a little bit darker in that shadow. We don't have to go very dark, but a little darker in the shadow, in the building to the left, and then we'll return to some of the St. Stephen's Cathedral back there. And I am going to start with simply water. I want to get it at an angle. And then we'll take some ultramarine blue. We'll take some burnt sienna. A little more ultramarine blue. A little bit of a mixture. Mix it well though. Want it to go just a little higher. And so, come with a little smaller brush. Grab a little more of this burnt sienna. Mix it with some ultramarine blue, a little more burnt sienna, a little bit of yellow ochre. Then, yes, we kind of blend it into this. That's a little pale. It's got to be darker. Burnt sienna. Burnt sienna. And blue, I think. Well, we can. In the front. I think that'll be okay. And this building is going to be, nah, it's a little weak. Pick up leftovers, darken those leftovers once more. Still runs down. Okay, that should do it. If not, I was trying to be too perfect. Let's mix up a nice dark here, a nice dry dark. And start up here. Dry, dry, dry. Along the edge here. A little thicker. This brush was not good. That's a little better. And take some of this, blend it in. Look away. Ah, so too many times. Well, why is it drying so fast? Now let's return to this horse a little bit, see if we can get a little definition in the features. Better weight. bring this to life, and then we'll look to the building again. Try to do it with simple brush strokes as much as possible. Don't need all of these. Like the one that goes over the nose. This was important. There's a lot of them that we don't need. We can do without. I'll leave that up to you. Some dry brush. Test. Okay. Just doing this pale, warm. We'll put in a shadow wash a little later. Too dark. We should do that first. I'm going to put in some of the moldings, I think. And then we'll get into it. Yeah, let's do that, and then we'll get into okay. Okay, and I don't want to get too dark. Too dark. Okay. Turn this into a turret. I don't know if we'll leave the window there. Just kind of blend this in. Okay. And let's do some smaller figures. Showing a little excitement at seeing the cab. Put a little shoulder here. Just doing some dry brush back here. Let's put some architectural details. It's a little wet there. See about doing some cobblestones. Lightly first. skinny brush. We don't need much. To give a feeling of the surface. Okay, let's take off the tape. Think about where shall we sign? We kind of created two spots that we could sign.